Hi everybody, how are you all? I am Rekha. Welcome to my channel Rekha's Knowledge Hub. Today we will see NCERT Classic Science Chapter 8 A Journey Through States of Water Short Answer Questions. I have already uploaded multiple choice questions and chapter explanation videos. Those who have not watched, please go through it. We will see the first question. What is the reason for the disappearance of water from the puddles? When there is rain, water collects in the form of small puddles on the road or ground. After some time, these puddles disappear. Now, why does this happen? The water in the puddles disappeared because it evaporated and turned into water vapor. Some water will seep into the ground. So, two things can happen to that water. Some water goes down into the soil. This is called seeping or soaking into the ground. Some water changes into water vapor and goes into the air. This is called evaporation. So the water in the puddles disappeared because it evaporated and turned into water vapor. Also, some water will seep into the ground. Next one, what happens to the water when sprinkled on a hot pan? When we make dosa, the pan becomes very hot. If we sprinkle a little water on this hot pan, the water does not stay. It quickly disappears. Where does it go? What happens to the water when sprinkled on a hot pan? It turns into steam, which is actually water vapor. The heat of the pan is very high. Because of this heat, the water changes into steam. Steam is nothing but water vapor. This change of liquid water into water vapor is called evaporation. What is evaporation? The process of conversion of water into its vapor state is called evaporation. The change of liquid water into water vapor is called evaporation. For example, drying clothes, mopped floors, and sweat drying from our skin are examples of evaporation. Here, the liquid water changes into its vapor state. What happens to hand sanitizer when rubbed on hands? Hand sanitizer evaporates quickly because it contains alcohol which changes into vapor. When we put hand sanitizer on our hands and rub it, it seems to disappear. Actually, it does not vanish. Hand sanitizer has alcohol in it. Alcohol evaporates very quickly. So, when you rub your hands, the alcohol turns into vapor and goes into the air. That is why the sanitizer dries fast and disappears. So, hand sanitizer evaporates quickly because it contains alcohol which changes into vapor. Next one, what is condensation? Condensation is a process of conversion of water vapor into liquid water when it touches a cold surface. So, condensation is a process in which water vapor or gas cools down and changes back into water, liquid water. Why are dewdrops commonly seen in the morning? Dewdrops are commonly seen in the morning because the air cools down at night and water vapor in the air changes into tiny drops of water on cool surfaces like grass and leaves. In the morning, when the sun rises, we can see these drops clearly before they evaporate. So the air cools down at night. What happens to the water vapor in the air? The water vapor in the air changes into tiny drops of water due to the process of condensation on the cool surfaces like grass and leaves. When we boil the water in a half-filled utensil and cover it with a steel plate, some water drops accumulate on the inner side of the steel plate. Where do these water drops come from? So when you boil the water in a half-filled utensil and cover it with a steel plate, after some time you can see water drops on the inner side of the steel plate. Where do these water drops come from? These water drops come from the steam produced by the boiling water. When the hot steam rises and touches a much cooler steel plate, it quickly changes state from a gas back into liquid water through the process of condensation. When we heat water, it changes into water vapor. This vapor is very hot and light, so it rises up. When this water vapor touches the steel plate, which is cooler, it cools down and changes back into water drops. So this water vapor will change back into water drops. These drops are the ones you see on the inner side of the plate. So where do the drops come from? They come from the water vapor that changed back into water. This change of vapor into liquid water is called condensation. So when water boils, it will change into water vapor. This vapor will rise and touch the cold steel plate. So the vapor will cool down and becomes water drops, that is condensation. That is why we see drops on the inner side of the steel plate. What happens to the mass of the glass tumbler with cold water after some time? You observe a glass tumbler with some cold water. After some time, you check the mass of the glass tumbler. The increase in mass indicated that the water droplets collected on the outer surface of the tumbler were not part of the initial water mass. This extra mass comes from the water vapor in the air that condensed onto the cold glass. The water on the outside comes from the air, not from inside the tumbler. The water had not seeped out through the glass. So the water outside is not from inside the glass. It is formed because the water vapor present in air touches the cold surface of the tumbler, cools down and changes into water droplets. This process is called condensation. So the water on the outside comes from the air, not from inside the tumbler. So the mass of the glass tumbler with the cold water after some time will increase. This increase in mass is caused by the water vapor in the air that condensed onto the cold glass. What are the three states of water? The three states of water are solid, that is ice, liquid, that is water, and gas, that is water vapor. Water changes between these states through heating or cooling. So the three states of water are solid, liquid, and gas. We can change the state of water from one form to another by either heating or by cooling. What are the differences in the properties of water in solid, liquid, and gaseous state? See, in solid state, that is ice, what about the shape? It has a fixed shape. Then, what about volume? It has a fixed volume. Then, what about its flow? It does not flow. It is in solid state, it does not flow. Then, what about arrangement of particles? Very tightly packed. Then, what about spreading? It will not spread. Then, visibility, visible, solid. Then example, ice cubes. Next, we will see liquid. liquid state, that is water. What about shape? No fixed shape. Takes the shape of the container. Then volume, liquid has fixed volume. Then flow, it will flow easily. Then what about arrangement of particles? The particles are loosely packed. Then what about spreading? It will spread a little on surfaces. Then what about visibility? Visible liquid. Then example, water in a glass. Then next we will see gas or water vapor. Gaseous state of water. What about shape? No fixed shape. Spreads in all directions. Then what about volume? No fixed volume. It fills the entire space available. Then what about its flow or movement? Moves freely and spreads quickly. What about arrangement of particles? Very far apart. That means they are not tightly packed. They are very far apart. The particles are very far apart. Then spreading spreads completely in all directions. Then what about its visibility? Invisible gas. Then example, steam or water vapor. Why can we smell food from another room? It is because the smell of yummy food from cooking spreads through the air and reaches our nostrils even if we are not in the kitchen. So, the smell from cooking will spread through the air and reaches our nostrils. How can you quickly change ice to its liquid state water? If we have to change ice into water and water into water vapor, we have to supply heat to it. So if you want to quickly change ice to its liquid state, you have to supply some heat. How can we change water into ice? Water can be changed into ice by cooling it or placing it in a freezer. So, to change water into ice, we remove heat from it. When we keep water in a freezer, the heat is taken away and water becomes solid ice. The low temperature freezes the water and turns it into solid ice. So, to change water into ice, we should cool it or place it in a freezer. Give an example of a substance other than water that can change its state. Wax. Wax from a candle can change its state. When heated, it melts into liquid wax, and when cooled, it solidifies again. Candle wax becomes liquid when we heat the candle flame. If we let the liquid wax cool down, it again becomes solid. What happens to coconut oil during winter? During winter, coconut oil cools down and becomes solid. It turns back into liquid when the temperature rises. Coconut oil also becomes solid in winter because the temperature becomes low. It turns back into liquid when the temperature rises. Then what is melting? The process of conversion of a solid into liquid state is called melting. The process of conversion of solid into liquid, that is melting. What is freezing? The process of conversion of liquid into solid state is called freezing. Why water in a plate evaporate faster than water in a bottle cap? The plate has a larger surface area exposed to air than a bottle cap. The larger area allows more water molecules to escape into the air, making evaporation faster. When we spread water on a plate, a bigger area is in contact with the air. Because of this, the water changes into water vapor more quickly. More exposed area, faster evaporation. Why is evaporation faster on a hot day or in sunlight compared to a cold day or in shade? Supplying heat gives water molecules the energy needed to break free and turn into vapor more quickly. So when you supply heat, the water molecules will get the energy required to break free and turn into vapor more quickly. So evaporation is faster on a hot day when compared to a cold day. Why do clothes dry faster on a hot sunny day? On a hot sunny day, the heat causes water to evaporate quickly, making clothes dry faster. So on a hot sunny day, the heat causes water to evaporate quickly. So clothes will dry faster. Why do clothes dry faster on a windy day? Wind helps remove water vapor from the surface of clothes, allowing more water to evaporate quickly. So, with the increase in the movement of air, water evaporates faster. So, clothes dry faster on a windy day. Why do clothes dry slowly on a rainy day? On a rainy day, the air already has a lot of water vapor, that is high humidity. So, evaporation happens slowly. On a rainy day, water evaporates slowly. If the amount of water in the air is already high, water evaporates slowly. How can you make clothes dry faster on a rainy day? You can dry clothes faster on a rainy day by using a fan, keeping them near heat, or placing them in a well ventilated area. So, to dry clothes faster on a rainy day, we can do things that help evaporation happen faster. We can put the clothes under a fan so the moving air can help water evaporate. We can keep the clothes near a heat source like near a warm place, or we can keep the clothes in a well ventilated area. Why is the water in the earthen pot cooler than in a steel pot? Water seeps through the tiny pores of the earthen pot and evaporates from the surface. This evaporation causes cooling, making the water inside the pot cool. An earthen pot has tiny holes on its surface. A little bit of water slowly comes out through these tiny holes. When this water comes out, it evaporates. Evaporation needs heat, so it takes heat from the water inside the pot. When heat is taken away, the water becomes cool. That is why water stored in an earthen pot feels colder than water kept in a steel pot. Why do we feel cool when we rub sanitizer on our hands? Sanitizer evaporates quickly and absorbs heat from the skin, producing a cooling effect. When we apply perfume or sanitizer, it feels cool on the skin because it evaporates quickly and absorbs heat from the skin, producing a cooling effect. What is a pot-in-pot cooler? A pot-in-pot cooler is made by placing a smaller earthen pot inside a larger one and filling the gap with wet sand. As water from the sand evaporates, it cools the inner pot. So to make a pot-in-pot cooler, you keep a smaller earthen pot inside a larger one and fill the gap with the wet sand. As the water from the wet sand evaporates, it cools the inner pot. Why should we add water regularly to the pot-in-pot cooler? Water must be added regularly to keep the sand moist so that continuous evaporation can maintain the cooling effect. You must add water regularly. For what purpose? To keep the sand moist so that continuous evaporation will take place. Then only we can maintain the cooling effect. What is Surahi or what is it used for? A Surahi is a traditional clay pot with a narrow neck. It is used in summer to keep drinking water cool through evaporation. So it is a traditional clay pot with a narrow neck. What is the process of rain formation? When warm air rises and cools, the water vapor in it condenses into tiny droplets around dust particles. When water gets heated by the sun, it changes into water vapor and rises up into the air. As the air goes higher and higher, the temperature becomes cooler. When the air becomes very cool, the water vapor changes back into tiny water droplets. This change of vapor into liquid droplets is called a what? Condensation. These tiny droplets stick to dust particles and form clouds. These small droplets come together to form clouds. Many small droplets in clouds combine to form larger drops. After some time, many droplets join and become heavy. When these drops become heavy, they fall to the earth as rain. When they become very heavy, they fall down as rain. What is a water cycle? The water from the ocean and the earth's surface evaporates into the atmosphere as vapor and returns as rain, hail, or snow, ultimately flowing back to the oceans. This circulation of water is known as water cycle. So, water from ocean and the earth's surface evaporates into atmosphere as vapor. This vapor rises and cools, that is condensation, and form clouds. Clouds become heavy and they fall as rain, hail, or snow. And the water flows back to rivers and oceans. So this cycle happens again and again. We call it the water cycle. Why can't we use most of the water on earth directly? Most of the earth's water is in the oceans and is salty. So it is not fit for drinking or direct use by plants and animals. Even though earth has a lot of water, only a small amount is fresh water. Most water is in oceans and cannot be used for drinking because seawater is salty. So it is not fit for drinking or direct use by plants and animals. So we must use water carefully and not waste it. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like, share and subscribe. We will see you in the next video. Thank you.